Arsonate is an intense and dramatic wildfire to play. There's something about being dropped in at this unknown location, just starting in media res and turning around to see this guy, gas mask and all, the burning inferno outside, realizing you're in a park ranger watchtower of some kind, and this guy is demanding you play some kind of Saw-esque game with him, where your life and well-being is clearly on the line. No idea how we got to this purgatory, but who doesn't love a good game against death incarnate? I learned to love that a long time ago when I had to play against Hades to escape the underworld from the many, many times I died as Odysseus, portrayed by Wishbone. Still one of the best adaptations of the Odyssey ever. However, unlike the God of Death, who gives you a fair shake, in Arsonate, you'll quickly learn the rules of the game by playing against someone who already knows the rules, and, we'll get there. A huge part of the game is the random selection from a short list of items that can help you or hinder your opponent, or the host as the game calls him. And if you're like me, you learn the hard way even on beginner mode, certain rules just don't apply to your opponent. But you, good little rule-abiding citizens, still have to follow them. We'll now be getting into spoilers, and it's important because half the game being the way it is does come from you playing against someone who already knows the rules thoroughly while you are just starting to learn. So yeah, if anything about the description so far appealed, go play it. You can do it in your browser on itch.io. Link is in the description. Otherwise, time to spoil the game. The game itself is deceptively simple. You each take turns turning over cards on the table, starting with the row in the middle, with the rub that on your turn thereafter, you have to flip cards on your side of the table, spreading the fire closer to your tower and your defeat on every turn. The cards flip, the fire spreads, and you want your opponent's tower to burn and yours to stay intact. There are only 3 types of cards to flip. Fire, which has no extra effect. A replay card, which makes you take another turn, a bad thing in this game because it forces you to flip another card, spreading the fire further on your side of the field. And the utility card, which gives you some randomly selected item from the ether. Once it arrives, you can't use it right away. The game will not let you. Outside of one specific item, but for the rest of them, no. You have to store it, and if possible, use it on your very next turn. Your opponent, on the other hand, we'll get to that. Incidentally, if your opponent has a crowbar, he'll use that first thing to steal what you have. Best policy, if he doesn't manage to do this, try to use that item yourself on your very next turn, because it's just a matter of time. That, or if you know he has a crowbar, it may just be the better choice to discard it, and hopefully you get something better on the next turn. Wait, so the crowbar is the one item you can use the moment you get it, but you can't take other crowbars to stop him from stealing your stuff? But he can? Oh, we'll get to you, you dirty cheat. And I haven't talked about the items yet. The items you get from the utility cards can be a crowbar, which can be used to open a storage locker and steal any items the host hasn't elected to use yet. An extinguisher, which can be used to reset a face-up card, giving you a little more grace to your side of the board. A spyglass, to peep and check under any card on the board. You can check your side to see if there's a utility card you want to use, or a replay card you want to avoid. Or you can check your opponent's side for a card you may want to get rid of. An axe, which will allow you to neutralize any face-down card. Hopefully, you eliminate a replay card on your side, or a utility card on your opponent's. Or maybe you got super lucky and used a spyglass to locate just such a card to eliminate. And gasoline. This will let you douse your opponent's side and spread the fire further toward the enemy's tower. But bear in mind, these are all also tactics that your opponent is using against you. Furthermore, the opponent already knows these rules going in. I had to learn from my first game watching him, and this guy can use items as soon as he gets them. And 2 items or more sometimes, on one turn. Wasn't this billed as the host plays fair mode? This cheating scumbag. I feel so robbed. And somehow that just made me determined to use everything I learned getting trounced in my first game to obliterate him in the second. And I have the personal satisfaction of knowing I did just that. It was close, but I did it, and I was very happy with myself. Despite that fleeting feeling of accomplishment, it does appear that most of the wins in this game are at the mercy of the RNG gods. It is highly luck-based, and the odds are against the player, to say nothing of your cheating opponent. There's still something just mesmerizing about the work that went into this. How all in and whole hog this felt as far as the dramatics of the host. The way he taps his fingers on his turn like he's announcing he's about to take control of the table, or is impatient for your defeat, restless at your resistance. The dramatic swing of the axe when he eliminates a card or uses the crowbar to steal an item you desperately need and only got just the last turn, unable to use until your next, and he just takes it from you, using it against you in the same turn. There's something almost smug about his movement when he brings the gasoline up just to give you an extra bit of dread before he douses your side of the table, or if he's got an extinguisher to eliminate all your hard work trying to force the fire to spread on his side of the table. Even when he uses the spyglass, he blithely announces, "I see," as if he's found something interesting, regardless of what he did or did not find. It's hard to put into words exactly how intensely anxiety-inducing it is in the player seat for this game. The ambience and your required input that allude to agency you quickly discover you don't actually have is really something else. The sweeping flourishes and specific flair to actions with smooth, cinematic camera angles and movement also all contribute to a state of nerves and dread. It's a state of near claustrophobia, trapped in this tiny room with only the game table, the item lockers, and the door you cannot escape through, along with the raging fire outside the watchtower, and your opponent, ever present and intimidating, and that soundtrack. Just listen a second. Now couple that with some of the absolutely amazing sound effects every time your opponent uses an item against you. So much flair. And when you're in it, it's kind of scary. It's tense, it's vivid, and with the odds this much against you that you know your opponent isn't bound by the same rules as you, it feels daunting if not outright impossible. That's why randomly given good luck victory feels so incredible. Notably, this is still only the demo. I expect there is some lore around the Forest Fire Watchtower and how that ties in with the endings you can get in the current demo. When you lose, you're technically given a choice. Make a deal, put on the mask, or die to the inferno. Choose death as consequence for your unfair loss, or become your opponent's replacement. Do you fear death, huh? Maybe this is hell, or some kind of purgatory, in which case maybe our main character isn't as random a victim as we might have first thought. There's even a part a few turns from the game's inevitable end, where the host asks if the main character feels regret. Could be lore-related for who the main character is, or maybe just an innocuous threat. Hey, do you regret not playing the game better? You know, when he's been ripping you off anyways. Just taunting us because he can, and chances are the game has been going his way since the setup is rigged. There is a lot of random thoughts that come to mind for what could be the case. Maybe it's not so random to expect the main character is familiar with the watchtower. Maybe we failed to sound the alarm and prevent a horrible fire or some other catastrophe, and this is poetic justice in a way. Maybe we're already dead. The fire consumed us long ago, and now we are either to become its avatar of destruction or be consigned to the dispassionate abyssal hereafter. Or maybe I'm far off base and all the main character knows is he was on a drunken bender one minute and the next he's been pulled into some awful fire dimension, forced to play a game by some sadistic entity that somehow got its hooks in him. Maybe this is the better theory. The title is Arsonate, and arson is property destruction, vandalism by fire. More importantly, it's often an act unassociated with meaningful intent outside of covering up an existing crime, revenge, or potential insurance money scams. Covering up a crime seems unlikely, but maybe we don't have enough information yet. Revenge is potentially on the table if the face behind the mask of our opponent is actually someone the main character is meant to have known, but more often, arson is associated with pyromania, extremist vandalism, and thrill-seeking. Often a victim of arson is just that, an unlucky victim. Wrong place, wrong time. There is just not much that could be done, you know? You can do everything right and take all the precautions, and sometimes things still don't work out. Not sure what precautions would work against an otherworldly avatar of forest fires, but hey. Not 100% on the Arsonate part. Assassinate comes to mind, but this doesn't reek of supernatural hitman to me. Not with the game and not with the apparent goal of the entity to have the main character take his place so the host can escape. Incarcerate may be a better word combination in that context, but again, it's a bit murky, and I think more context may be necessary to say for sure. It could be any of those things or none of them. It's even possible in an expanded game that we will not get further context or answers. The game we see in the demo could end up being one small part of a much bigger whole. Who knows? The developer, I hope. The game still feels super complete and is great fun as is. But again, checking through the comments, it does seem the dev has some ideas for how they want to expand the game and take it further. Lots of interesting suggestions and ideas here, and I guess at some point I need to check out Buckshot Roulette, because that's somehow related to this. Oh, okay. But either way, the demo is currently available to play on the web browser on itch.io, it's also on Steam, and it's one I will be watching for updates. Arsonate left a little scorch mark on my brain. Too bad it's going to be a slow burn. But hey, sometimes those can be the most long-lasting and impactful. All this to say, the game is kind of fire, and you should get lit.